the activities we haven't deleted an activity or added any activities, but we've provided a lot more substance to some of the discussions, something much more concrete. So we've specified, for example, where the private sector would like more diplomacy taking place, and looking at market information, how it would happen, what kind of trainings specifically are needed, the kind of trainings needed as well for government officials in foreign countries, and the feedback mechanisms, the information flows. I think we have much more detail. It's a bit more concrete for us to be able to move forward. So I think on that front, yes, it's been very useful. But as I say, nothing major has changed. But we will revise this action plan after today, and we will share it back with the government to disseminate it. So thank you on behalf of my table, anyway, for the work that we came up with. Over to the next table. So mine was, of course, trade promotion and trade diplomacy was my area.
Yes, sorry, my laptop is running low in battery. So let me. So mine was objective 2: building the capacity of business players to exploit the opportunity of the AfCFTA. So again, like Paul was mentioning, for his, there's no like change in terms of the recommended interventions, but what we went through is prioritize some of the interventions and setting some of the interventions as more like lower priority. In terms of, we discussed about, for us, 2.1 is having export coaching programs with SMEs concerned. But what we came across is that this, before hiring consultants, SMEs also should be involved in the identification of what type of consultant we should be bringing in, the resources, the width, and the volume. And there's need to train and raise the awareness of SMEs in terms of the standards, issues in terms of SPSS, labeling, educate the SMEs. Need to collaborate with our regional African island in terms of shipment, like, for example, having regional feeder vessels for shipment, and realign and discuss about freight and pricing, mutual agreements on that. In terms of, we talked about the Go to Export program. So this is good to have feedback on this program and what were the lessons learned, but it's we classified it as a low priority against other interventions that would be more higher priority. In terms of entrepreneurship centers that were proposed, it's going to be difficult to implement, but regarding skills and technology in Mauritius, we should be promoting that, and even if foreigners are coming, should make sure that there's knowledge transfer, and we need to be looking at the latest and affordable technology, and also be aware of what's coming as new technologies. In terms of portal database, so we made aware that the at ministerial level, there's already a trade information portal. Even MCCI and EDB are sharing information. Agro industry Agro is sharing SPSS information. So again, training on SMEs. There was a question whether embassies and consulates are the right authorities, the right institution to be advisors in terms of building the market information portal database. And in terms of in Africa, also look at identifying trade counselors that would be on the ground and look for investors from the motion committee. In terms of offering advice and expert guidance to SMEs for development, this was classified as high priority. Going for trade missions in African countries, that also was classified as high priority, and also to be present in AfCFTA trade fairs. There has already been two, one in Cairo, one in Joburg, and also I think one in Kigali. So we should be present, proactive, and develop partnerships, look at develop partnerships there in terms of exports and also production. And regarding participation there, we should be giving chance to all types of enterprise, not only SMEs, but big groups. And everyone should be aware and have a kind of a rotation or an equal participation of the representatives. So have representatives of these organizations there. Important and high priority is to look forward at the platform Pan-African payment and settlement system using the support of Exim Bank. So this already exists at commercial level. And last point is around a boot camp in collaboration with local African organizations and partners in other countries. So that was a good proposal, but we need to have proper communication and network, and everyone that would be interested, would be main players in the bootcamp, should be aware of what's happening. So that's the main points besides what we had as implementation interventions. So it's noted, and then we'll have to realign what we have. So maybe I'll pass on now to Zara.
Thank you. So for me, we looked at strategic objective number 1 first. So adopting the necessary institutional framework to implement and benefit from the AfCFTA. And so essentially, we had certain changes brought to it in terms of, instead of setting up another new committee, we are going to have a subcommittee under the interministerial committee dedicated to exports to Africa. And it was also mentioned that the subcommittee should be comprised of senior technical staff, and there were some concerns about both possible overlaps, so maybe that is an area that we need to look into a little bit. And then some other changes just to streamline the institution, basically. And when it comes to the sustainable impact assessment, I think we want to give consideration first whether this would be possible and feasible for Mauritius to adopt at this stage, or would this be postponed to the future. So we've changed the timeline from the medium term to the long term. And now moving on to strategic objective number 4, which is improving the country's transport and logistics connectivity with the continent. Again, there are not too many changes, but I think one of the major ones is just assigning the lead agency to the Ministry of Blue Economy, Marine Resources, Fisheries and Shipping when it comes to improving the maritime transport network. And we also got some suggestions to probably look into harmonizing maritime policies with other African states, and probably seeking technical assistance from Trademark East Africa, just to improve logistics and infrastructure in Mauritius in this sector. And that would be it. Thank you.
Good, thank you. My colleagues were much more thorough than I was in giving feedback, but thank you very much. I think you've all worked extremely hard, so really that's been very, very helpful. And in just the space of an hour, we did a lot. We covered quite a lot of ground, so that's great. So on my side, there's nothing else. I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions, or we can move for the closing. Is anything anybody wants to add? No? If ever you want to contact us for any other suggestions or comments, please do so. We remain available. And as I said, we'll try and close the report end of next week, at the end of next week. But Mr. Loximan.
Valuable inputs during the breakout sessions on the different objectives. Of course, the ministry is going to apprise cabinet on the finding and recommendation of the study, and also on the action plan, which has been validated by this workshop. And of course, we're going to implement those recommendations. And it's good that we also have the private sector, EDB, MCCI. Of course, the ministries, they're going to implement those recommendations, but EDB and MCCI, they're going to play an important role, especially, for example, trade fairs. We've been participating in Dubai Expo aggressively, but the intra-African trade fair, we have not been very aggressive. I think we missed the first intra-African trade fair in Cairo, the second one in Durban. I think we're going to have a third one in Kigali. So the private sector, they should be, especially for the African continent, aggressive in showcasing our product in Africa. So regarding the study and the action plan, I think we've done a good job. So I would like to, on behalf of the government of Mauritius, I would like to thank the UNECA, especially Miss Issa Tugayi and your team, Aruna and the UNECA team, and also International Economics, Mr. Paul Baker and your team, for that very, very good work that we've done today in this workshop. And of course, we're going to have, it's not yet over, we have a monitoring committee at the level of the ministry in collaboration with the Economic Development Board to assess FTAs. So I'm going to apprise cabinet, and then we will implement the recommendation in that committee. So we have like a follow-up action at the level of the FTAs committee to monitor progress on the action plan for the national response strategy. And then also we will see whether we meet the expected outputs and whether we are promoting trade and investment in the region. So it's not yet over, it's an ongoing process. So we hope that in the near future, short term and medium term, we will access the African market further for both, not only for both goods and services, but also in terms of attracting FDI, and also, why not, for Mauritians to invest in the African continent. So I would like to thank you. It was a pleasure to work with you, the participants. the UNICA, International Economics, and hope we will keep in touch and have like a follow-up process for us to meet the indicators here in the action plan, and that we, I mean, for Mauritius to be very aggressive in Africa to export goods and also to promote investment. Thank you a lot.
I am a policy researcher at the International Economics Consulting, and recently we validated national response strategy for Mauritius on the implementation of the AfCFTA, and some of the considerations going into the AfCFTA concern the environment, and therefore it's quite important to understand what the implications will be for Africa in general, but also for all different countries, specifically when it comes to environmental protection, climate change, or other risks arising from the AfCFTA's implementation. So first of all, we definitely know that with rising trade there's going to be a rise in CO2 emissions, and this is going to lead to, unless concurrent measures are undertaken, to move towards sustainable energy. And this is especially more the case in Africa, because currently most of the intra-African trade between African countries is mostly in the manufactured industry. So if this continues, we are going to see greater emissions, and of course at the same time we are going to need to undertake corrective measures to ensure that we can meet NDCs and continue to protect the environment in Africa and other small island developing states, because they face additional challenges that perhaps other countries might not face. So it would be good to undertake further study in order to assess the impact for these states in particular as well. Now the AfCFTA in itself also offers the opportunity, to improve trade when it comes to environmental goods and services. So this is definitely going to have an impact on the way that we adapt and mitigate to climate change.